Imagine a child, 10 years old, small enough that their feet still swing when they sit in a chair, young enough to believe monsters live under the bed, young enough to need protection, yet somehow they have become the protector, not because they chose to, not because they were strong, but because nobody else was. Every family has an invisible structure, a hidden hierarchy, a distribution of responsibilities. In a healthy family, adults carry the burdens. Adults regulate emotions. Adults solve crises. Adults absorb uncertainty. And children are allowed to do the one thing nature designed them to do: be children. But sometimes the structure collapses. Sometimes the adults become overwhelmed. Sometimes they become broken. Sometimes they become absent. And when that happens, the burden falls downward, onto the smallest shoulders in the house. The child becomes the mediator, the peacemaker, the emotional caretaker, the responsible one, the strong one, the mature one, and everyone praises them for it. What nobody realizes is that the very qualities being praised are often evidence of a childhood being sacrificed, because maturity acquired through necessity is not a gift. It is often a survival adaptation. The child learns a dangerous lesson. My needs are less important than everyone else's. My feelings can wait. My problems do not matter. My job is to keep the system functioning. And so the child begins a career, not a childhood, a career, a full-time unpaid position inside the emotional economy of the family, a position they never applied for, a position they never wanted, a position they cannot resign from, at least not without consequences. Years pass. The child grows older. Their body changes. Their voice deepens. They become an adult. But something strange happens. The responsibility remains. The vigilance remains. The guilt remains. The anxiety remains. And now they find themselves exhausted by a burden they cannot even name. They become the person everyone relies upon, the person everyone calls during a crisis, the person who never asks for help, the person who feels guilty resting, the person who feels responsible for things that have absolutely nothing to do with them. And they wonder, why am I like this? Why can't I relax? Why do I feel guilty when I say no? Why do I feel responsible for everyone's happiness? Why does success feel dangerous? Why do I constantly feel like something bad is about to happen? The answer may have begun decades ago, in a house where a child was forced to become an adult before their mind was ready. Modern trauma psychology has a name for this phenomenon: parentification. But the word itself is far too small for the damage it describes, because this is not simply a child helping around the house. This is a child becoming responsible for burdens that belong to adults. It is one of the most invisible forms of childhood trauma, and perhaps the most socially rewarded. Teachers praise it, relatives admire it, neighbors respect it. Nobody sees the cost, because the child appears functional, capable, mature, responsible. The tragedy is that everyone sees the strength. Almost nobody sees the wound. Tonight, we are going to enter that wound. We are going to explore the hidden trauma of growing up too fast. We are going to examine how a child becomes the parent, why that child often grows into an exhausted adult, and most importantly, how they can finally put down a burden that was never theirs to carry. Because the strongest people are not always the healthiest people. And sometimes, the child everyone admired for being mature was simply surviving. Nature has a plan for childhood. Play, curiosity, exploration, mistakes, safety, dependency. For thousands of years, human childhood existed for a reason. A child's brain is unfinished, still developing, still learning, still building the neurological architecture that will support the rest of life. Children are not supposed to carry the emotional burdens of adults. They are supposed to be protected from them. Yet history tells a different story.
Throughout human civilization, childhood has often been interrupted by survival. During wars, famines, economic collapses, entire generations of children were forced into adult responsibilities. During the Industrial Revolution, children worked in factories. During world wars, children became caretakers. During economic depressions, children became providers. When survival is threatened, childhood becomes a luxury. And while modern society likes to imagine these realities belong to the past, millions of children are still living them today. Not in factories, not on battlefields, but inside their own homes. The battlefield has simply become psychological. A mother overwhelmed by anxiety, a father consumed by addiction, parents trapped in constant conflict, financial instability, emotional instability, mental illness, divorce, chaos. The details change, the mechanism remains the same. The child looks around and realizes nobody is steering the ship. Someone must take control, someone must solve the problem, someone must become responsible, and that someone is often the child. Not because they are qualified, but because they are available. The transformation happens quietly. So quietly that most people never notice it occurring. One day a child comforts a crying parent. The next day they mediate an argument. The day after that they begin monitoring the emotional temperature of the household. And before long, they have become something they were never supposed to be. Not a child, but a caretaker. And once that identity forms, it becomes incredibly difficult to escape. In the next chapter, we introduce parentification, family systems theory, and the moment the child becomes the emotional employee of the family. This is where this video starts getting truly powerful. So stay with this. Chapter 2. The promotion nobody wants. The transformation rarely happens in a single dramatic moment. There is no ceremony, no announcement, no contract to sign. No adult sits the child down and says, "Congratulations. From this day forward, you will become responsible for problems that should never belong to you." Instead, it happens gradually, quietly, like water filling a room one drop at a time. The child doesn't notice it. The family doesn't notice it. Yet the role begins to form, one responsibility at a time, one crisis at a time, one sacrifice at a time. A mother has a bad day. She unloads her fears onto her son. A father is overwhelmed. He begins relying on his daughter for emotional support. An argument breaks out. The child becomes the mediator, the peacemaker, the emotional shock absorber. The role feels small at first, temporary, necessary, even noble. After all, what is wrong with helping the people you love? Nothing. The problem is not the helping. The problem is the direction of the help. Healthy families move resources downward. Parents support children. Parents provide stability. Parents absorb uncertainty. Parents create safety. But in dysfunctional systems, the flow reverses. The child becomes responsible for the emotional survival of the adults, and that changes everything. Family therapist Ivan Bosorman-Yanagi described this phenomenon as a distortion of family roles. The child begins carrying responsibilities that belong to someone else. Responsibilities their mind was never designed to carry. Responsibilities their nervous system cannot properly process. The child becomes a parent, not legally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. Imagine a 10-year-old boy. His parents are constantly fighting. Every evening feels like a battlefield. The house is tense, the atmosphere unpredictable. The boy learns to monitor every facial expression, every tone of voice, every footstep. He studies the emotional climate of the home the way a sailor studies the weather. Not because he wants to, because his survival depends on it. He begins learning something no child should ever learn: how to manage adults, how to calm them, how to prevent conflict, how to absorb emotional chaos. Years later, people will describe him as mature, responsible, reliable, level-headed. What they don't see is that these qualities were forged under pressure, not freedom. Pressure. A child who constantly monitors danger often grows into an adult who cannot relax, even when the danger is gone. This is one of trauma's cruelest tricks. The environment changes, the nervous system does not. The child adapts to chaos, then carries the adaptation into adulthood. Like a soldier returning from war, the battlefield is gone, but the vigilance remains, and so the promotion continues. The daughter becomes her mother's therapist, listening to problems she cannot understand, carrying burdens she cannot solve, hearing fears she should never have been exposed to. The son becomes his father's emotional crutch. The older sibling becomes a substitute parent, cooking meals, raising younger children, protecting the family from collapse. Meanwhile, something invisible is being stolen. Childhood. Every hour spent managing adult emotions is an hour not spent becoming yourself. Every moment spent rescuing others is a moment not spent discovering who you are. This is why so many parentified children reach adulthood with a strange feeling. A feeling they struggle to explain. They know how to take care of everyone else, but they have absolutely no idea how to take care of themselves. Ask them what other people need. They know immediately. Ask them what they need. Silence. The question feels foreign, almost selfish, almost dangerous, because somewhere deep inside, they learned a rule. Other people first, you later. Perhaps never. Psychologist Murray Bowen observed that families often operate like emotional ecosystems. When one member becomes unstable, another member unconsciously compensates. The tragedy is that the most adaptable member is often the child. The child sacrifices their own development to stabilize the system. The family survives, the child pays the bill, and that bill compounds with interest. Years later, the former child becomes an adult who cannot stop working, cannot stop helping, cannot stop fixing, cannot stop carrying, not because they enjoy it, because they no longer know who they are without the burden. The burden became identity. The responsibility became personality. The sacrifice became self-worth. And without realizing it, they built their entire sense of value around being useful. Not loved, useful, not appreciated, useful, not seen, useful. This is the invisible promotion, the promotion nobody wants, the promotion that steals childhood and replaces it with duty. The promotion that teaches a child how to survive, while quietly preventing them from learning how to live. And the most heartbreaking part, many of these children never realize what happened. They spend decades believing their exhaustion is a character flaw, their anxiety is weakness, their guilt is morality, their hyper-responsibility is virtue. They never stop to ask a simple question. What if I was never supposed to carry this in the first place? In next chapter, we'll explore how the child becomes addicted to usefulness and begins measuring their worth entirely through service, sacrifice, and solving other people's problems. That chapter is where you may see yourself as a mirror. Chapter 3. The family's emotional employee. There is a dangerous moment in every dysfunctional family. A moment so subtle that most people never recognize it. The child discovers that being needed feels good, not at first. At first it feels exhausting, stressful, overwhelming. But eventually, the child begins receiving rewards. Not money, not freedom, not security. Something far more powerful. Validation, approval, praise. The family starts saying things like, "You're the only one I can count on. You're so mature for your age. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're the strong one." To an adult, these sound like compliments. To a child, they become identity. And identity is one of the most addictive substances in human psychology. The child begins to understand something. When I solve problems, I am loved. When I carry burdens, I am valued. When I sacrifice myself, I matter. A contract has been formed, an invisible contract. The child does not realize they are signing it, but they sign it anyway. Over time, the family develops an emotional economy. Every family has one. In healthy families, love exists independently of performance. Children are loved because they exist, not because they perform a function. But in dysfunctional systems, love often becomes conditional. The child is rewarded for usefulness. The child is rewarded for obedience. The child is rewarded for self-sacrifice. And eventually, the child learns to treat themselves like an employee who never clocks out. Imagine a corporation. Every day the employee arrives early, works overtime, solves crises, sacrifices weekends, protects the company from disaster. And every time they do, management applauds them. The applause becomes addictive. Soon they are no longer working for the paycheck. They are working for approval. The same thing happens inside many families, except the currency is emotional, and the cost is far greater. The child becomes the family's emotional employee, the unofficial manager of everyone else's feelings. The emergency response team, the therapist, the problem solver, the peacekeeper, the rescuer, the fixer. And because they perform the role so well, the family keeps promoting them. More responsibility, more expectations, more sacrifice, but no freedom, no childhood, no identity, only duty. This creates one of the strangest paradoxes in trauma psychology. The child begins to resent the burden, yet simultaneously fears losing it, because if they stop carrying everyone, who are they? If they stop fixing people, what value do they have? If they stop sacrificing, will anyone still love them? This is where the trap closes. The child becomes imprisoned by their own competence. Psychologist Alice Miller spent years studying children who were praised for being exceptionally mature, exceptionally responsible, exceptionally accommodating. She noticed something fascinating. Many of these children appeared healthy from the outside, successful, reliable, high-achieving, yet internally, they were disconnected from themselves. The world loved the role, but nobody knew the person. The child learned how to become what everyone needed, but never discovered who they actually were. Think about that for a moment. Imagine spending 20 years becoming exactly what everyone else wants, only to wake up one day and realize you have no idea what you want, no idea what excites you, no idea what fulfills you, no idea who you are without responsibility. This is why so many former parentified children struggle with rest. Rest feels wrong. Rest feels dangerous. Rest feels undeserved because their nervous system has linked worth with productivity, value with sacrifice, love with usefulness. When they stop helping, they feel guilty. When they stop solving problems, they feel anxious. When life becomes peaceful, they become uncomfortable. Peace feels unfamiliar. Chaos feels like home. And so they unconsciously recreate the very environments that damage them. They become attracted to people who need saving, partners who need fixing, friends who need rescuing, co-workers who need carrying. Because the role is familiar, the role feels safe, the role feels like purpose. But purpose and conditioning are not the same thing. A person can spend decades mistaking one for the other. The former child enters adulthood carrying an invisible belief. My value depends on what I can do for other people. That belief becomes the foundation of their relationships, their career, their identity, their self-worth. And because the belief sits beneath conscious awareness, they rarely question it. They simply live it, day after day, year after year, sometimes for an entire lifetime, until eventually something happens. Burnout, exhaustion, depression, resentment. The system begins to crack. the emotional employee discovers a terrible truth. No matter how much they give, it is never enough. The demands never stop. The expectations never end. The burden only grows heavier, and for the first time, they begin asking a forbidden question. A question the family system never wanted them to ask. What if I stopped? What if I stopped carrying everyone? What if I stopped solving problems that aren't mine? What if I stopped earning love? What if I simply existed? For many people, that question feels more terrifying than the burden itself, because it threatens the identity they have spent their entire lives building. The family's emotional employee is beginning to wake up, and every dysfunctional system fears one thing above all else: a person who finally realizes they can resign. This is where the documentary starts turning from childhood trauma into adult consequences. Next chapter. We're going to discover one of the most important part in the entire documentary video, because you stop looking at your own childhood and start recognizing your current life. Chapter 4. Why the responsible child suffers. As an adult. The child grows up, at least physically. The years pass, school ends, the world opens, responsibilities change, but something strange happens. The burden remains, not because anyone is forcing them to carry it anymore, because they no longer know how to put it down. The responsible child often becomes the responsible adult, the reliable employee, the dependable friend, the supportive partner, the person everyone calls when life falls apart, the person who never seems to need help, the person who always appears strong. From the outside, their life often looks admirable, but beneath the surface, many are exhausted. Not physically, existentially. They are tired in a way sleep cannot fix, because they have spent decades carrying weight that was never theirs, and now they have forgotten what it feels like to be weightless. One of the cruelest consequences of growing up too fast is hyper-responsibility, the belief that everything is your fault, everything is your duty, everything is your problem. The adult enters a room and immediately begins scanning for issues. Who is uncomfortable? Who is upset? Who needs help? Who might become angry? Whose emotions require management? The process happens automatically. The nervous system has been trained for years, sometimes decades. They are not living in the present. They are monitoring threats. Threats most people cannot even see. This is why many former parentified children struggle to relax. Relaxation feels irresponsible. Imagine a soldier returning from war. The battlefield is over. The enemy is gone. Yet every loud sound still triggers vigilance. Every unexpected movement creates tension. The body does not know the war has ended. The same thing happens psychologically. The family crisis may be over. The parent may no longer need rescuing. The household may no longer be unstable. Yet the nervous system remains trapped in the role, always alert, always ready, always carrying, and eventually, the body begins collecting the bill. Trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk spent decades studying what chronic stress does to human beings. His work revealed something profound. Trauma is not simply an event, it becomes a pattern, a way of existing, a way of perceiving reality. The child learns danger is normal, chaos is normal, responsibility is normal, self-sacrifice is normal, and so the adult unconsciously recreates those conditions, not because they enjoy suffering, because suffering feels familiar. The familiar often feels safer than the unknown, even when the familiar is destroying us. This explains a mystery that confuses many people. Why do responsible adults often attract irresponsible people? Why does the caretaker always seem to find someone who needs care? Why does the rescuer always seem to find someone who needs rescuing? Because trauma creates magnets. The person who spent childhood carrying others often becomes attracted to relationships that allow them to continue carrying others. The role changes. The pattern remains. A chaotic parent becomes a chaotic partner. A demanding family becomes demanding friendships. An unstable household becomes an unstable workplace. The faces change. The dynamics stay remarkably similar. Carl Jung believed that until unconscious patterns become conscious, they direct our lives while we call it fate. Think about that. How many people believe they simply have bad luck with relationships, bad luck with friendships, bad luck with co-workers, when in reality, they are unconsciously selecting environments that feel emotionally familiar, even if those environments are harmful, because familiarity and safety are not the same thing. This is where guilt enters the story. The responsible child often grows into an adult with a deeply distorted relationship to guilt. Healthy guilt serves a purpose. It helps us correct mistakes, repair harm, maintain moral integrity. But trauma transforms guilt into something else, a weapon. The adult begins feeling guilty for things that are not wrong. They feel guilty resting, guilty saying no, guilty prioritizing themselves, guilty having boundaries, guilty succeeding, guilty leaving, guilty existing. The feeling becomes so constant that they stop questioning it. It becomes background noise, like a machine that never turns off. And because guilt is always present, they assume it must be telling the truth. But emotions are not always evidence. Sometimes they are simply echoes. Echoes from a childhood where saying no had consequences. Echoes from a household where pleasing others was necessary for survival. Echoes from a life that required adaptation. The tragedy is that adaptations often outlive their usefulness. The child needed them, the adult no longer does. Yet the adult continues living as if the old rules still apply. There is another symptom rarely discussed: success anxiety. Many people believe success should feel good, and often it does. For a while. Then something strange happens. The former parentified child begins feeling uncomfortable, restless, anxious, almost guilty. Why? Because success creates separation. Success means growth. Growth creates distance. Distance threatens the identity they built around service. The more successful they become, the harder it becomes to continue being everyone's caretaker. And deep inside, a terrified part of them whispers, "If I stop being useful, will people still love me?" That question follows them everywhere. Into relationships, into careers, into friendships, into marriage, into parenthood, into old age. Many never realize that their entire life is organized around answering it. And that is why the responsible child suffers. Not because they are weak, not because they are broken, not because they failed, but because they learned survival strategies that became prisons. The qualities that once protected them now restrict them. The armor that once saved their life has become too heavy to wear. And for the first time, they begin asking another dangerous question. If I am not the rescuer, if I am not the caretaker, if I am not the responsible one, then who am I? And that question is where the real journey begins. In the next chapter, we go deep into trauma, the nervous system, hypervigilance, anxiety, insomnia, overthinking, people-pleasing, and why the body carries childhood long after the mind tries to move on. Chapter 5. Your body never forgot. One of the most dangerous misconceptions about childhood trauma is the belief that time heals it automatically. People often say, "That happened years ago. You're an adult now. Just move on. Let it go." As if the human nervous system operates like a filing cabinet. As if painful experiences can simply be archived and forgotten. But trauma does not work that way. The mind can forget. The body rarely does. For decades, psychologists believed trauma was primarily a memory problem, a problem of thought, a problem of recollection. Then researchers began discovering something extraordinary. Trauma is not simply stored as a story, it is stored as a state of readiness, a state of anticipation, a state of survival. Trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk dedicated much of his career to understanding this phenomenon. His conclusion challenged decades of conventional thinking. The body keeps the score, not metaphorically, literally. Your nervous system remembers what your conscious mind has long forgotten. Imagine a child living in an unpredictable home. Every day is different. Every mood is different. Every interaction carries uncertainty. Sometimes the parent is loving, sometimes explosive, sometimes affectionate, sometimes absent. The child never knows which version is coming, and so the nervous system adapts. It develops a remarkable ability, hypervigilance. The child learns to detect danger before it arrives. A footstep, a door closing, a change in tone, a facial expression, a sigh, a silence. Signals invisible to most people become impossible to ignore. The child's survival depends on reading them correctly. Years later, the child becomes an adult. But the nervous system continues performing the same job, scanning, monitoring, preparing, expecting. The battlefield has disappeared, the soldier remains. This is why many former parentified children struggle with anxiety, not because they are weak, not because they are irrational, because their nervous system learned that constant alertness was necessary. The body is trying to protect them. It simply does not realize the war is over. Have you ever noticed how some people cannot sit still, cannot relax, cannot enjoy peace? The moment life becomes quiet, their mind starts searching for problems, searching for threats, searching for disasters. This is not a character flaw, it is conditioning. Their nervous system became addicted to vigilance. Chaos became familiar, calm became suspicious, silence became uncomfortable. And so they live with a strange contradiction. They desperately want peace, yet peace makes them anxious, because peace feels unfamiliar. The body trusts what it knows, even when what it knows is suffering. This explains another mystery: overthinking. Many people believe overthinking is simply excessive analysis. It is not. At its deepest level, overthinking is often a survival strategy. The child learned that mistakes carried consequences. Unexpected events carried consequences. Other people's emotions carried consequences. So the brain adapted. It began predicting every possible outcome, every possible danger, every possible disaster. The brain became a forecasting machine, constantly calculating, constantly preparing, constantly exhausting itself. The adult now lies awake at 2 o'clock in the morning, not because there is danger, because their nervous system never received permission to stand down. Another common symptom appears in relationships. The former parentified child often becomes emotionally exhausted by ordinary interactions. A delayed text message feels significant. A change in tone feels significant. A partner's bad mood feels significant. Not because they are dramatic, because their nervous system was trained to believe that emotional shifts predict danger. The body is responding to the past, while the mind believes it is responding to the present. This creates enormous confusion. The adult begins questioning themselves. Why am I so sensitive? Why am I overreacting? Why can't I just relax? The answer is simple. Your body is trying to protect a child that no longer exists. Think about that. Every anxious thought, every sleepless night, every moment of hypervigilance, every compulsive need to prepare for disaster. Maybe the nervous system protecting a version of you that survived by expecting the worst. The tragedy is that what once protected the child can imprison the adult. The armor remains long after the battle ends, and armor is heavy. Eventually, the burden begins affecting everything: sleep, relationships, work, health, identity. Many former parentified children develop a strange relationship with rest. Rest feels unearned. The moment they sit down, guilt appears. The moment they relax, anxiety arrives. The moment they stop producing, their sense of worth begins to evaporate. Why? because their nervous system linked safety with usefulness, movement with safety, productivity with safety, responsibility with safety. Stillness feels dangerous. The body does not understand rest. It only understands readiness. And perhaps that is the cruelest consequence of growing up too fast. The child spent years learning how to survive, but never learned how to feel safe. There is a difference. Survival is not safety. Endurance is not peace. Functioning is not healing. Many people spend decades surviving brilliantly while quietly falling apart inside. Then one day they reach a breaking point. The nervous system can no longer carry the burden. The body begins demanding attention through anxiety, through burnout, through exhaustion, through depression, through symptoms that seem to appear from nowhere. But they did not come from nowhere. They came from years of carrying a weight that was never meant to be carried. The body has simply decided it can no longer remain silent. And perhaps that is not a punishment. Perhaps it is an invitation. An invitation to finally stop surviving and begin living. Chapter 6. Why Success Feels Dangerous. There is a strange phenomenon that psychologists have observed for decades. A person works tirelessly toward a goal. They dream about it, sacrifice for it, plan for it, fight for it. Then, the moment success becomes possible, they sabotage themselves, they procrastinate, they hesitate, they create unnecessary problems, they abandon opportunities, they retreat. From the outside, it appears irrational. Why would someone spend years chasing success only to run from it when it finally arrives? The answer is far deeper than laziness, far deeper than fear. The answer often lies in childhood. For the parentified child, success is not merely achievement, success is separation, and separation feels dangerous. Think about the invisible contract we discussed earlier. The child learned that their value came from usefulness, from service, from sacrifice, from being available. The family system rewarded these behaviors. The child became indispensable, necessary, reliable, the one everyone depended upon. Now imagine that child grows up, starts a successful career, builds financial independence, creates healthy boundaries, moves away, finds peace. What happens? For the first time, they no longer need the family system, and the family system no longer controls them. To a healthy person, this sounds like freedom. To a traumatized nervous system, it can feel like betrayal, because somewhere deep inside, an ancient fear begins to awaken. If I become too successful, will they still love me? Will they resent me? Will they abandon me? Will I become alone? These questions rarely reach consciousness, yet they influence behavior every day. The adult begins unconsciously limiting themselves, not because they lack ability, because they fear the consequences of growth. Many parentified children were raised inside environments where individuality was dangerous. Standing out created problems. Having needs created problems. Disagreeing created problems. Success created problems. The safest strategy was often to remain small, predictable, manageable, even invisible. The nervous system learned a powerful lesson. Safety comes from belonging, and belonging comes from compliance. Years later, the person may possess extraordinary talent, extraordinary intelligence, extraordinary potential. Yet every time they approach a breakthrough, something pulls them backward. The mind says, go forward. The nervous system says, stay where it is safe. And safety is rarely where growth lives. Psychologist John Bowlby understood something fundamental about human beings. We are wired for attachment. Connection is not optional. For most of human history, isolation could mean death. Our ancestors survived through belonging. Being rejected by the tribe carried enormous consequences. That ancient biological programming still exists inside us. which means growth often creates a conflict. The person wants freedom, but fears losing connection. The person wants success, but fears being rejected. The person wants independence, but fears becoming an outsider. And nowhere is this conflict stronger than in families. Many family systems operate through an unwritten rule. You can succeed. Just don't succeed beyond us. You can grow. Just don't outgrow us. You can shine. Just don't shine so brightly that it exposes our own limitations. The child senses this, sometimes through direct criticism, sometimes through subtle comments, sometimes through silence, sometimes through guilt. A promotion receives less enthusiasm than expected. A major achievement is ignored. A personal victory is minimized. The message becomes clear. Growth has consequences. Success creates distance, and distance threatens the system. This is why so many successful people secretly feel guilty. Not because success is wrong, because success creates separation from old identities. The person begins leaving behind the role they once played. The rescuer, the caretaker, the emotional employee, the responsible child. And every identity we leave behind creates grief. Even unhealthy identities, even painful identities, even identities we desperately needed to escape. There is another reason success feels dangerous. Success forces a person to confront a terrifying possibility. What if I was capable all along? Think about that. Many former parentified children spend years believing they are the problem, believing they are inadequate, believing they are flawed. Then success arrives, and suddenly the evidence says otherwise. The promotion, the healthy relationship, the thriving business, the peaceful life. The success story becomes proof that they were never the problem. And strangely, that realization can be difficult to accept because it forces them to reevaluate their entire past. If they were capable all along, why were they treated as though they weren't? If they were worthy all along, why did they spend years earning approval? If they were enough all along, why did they carry so much shame? Success does something dangerous. It exposes lies. Not only the lies other people told, the lies we learned to tell ourselves. And many people would rather remain familiar than face the truth. This is why self-sabotage exists. Not because people want failure, because failure protects old identities. Failure preserves familiar relationships. Failure allows the old story to continue. Success demands a new story, and new stories require courage. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of parentification is that the child learns to carry everyone else's future, but rarely learns how to build their own. The adult spends years becoming useful, years becoming reliable, years becoming indispensable, yet never learns how to pursue their own ambitions without guilt. Their dreams become secondary, their desires become negotiable, their needs become optional, and so success feels selfish. Success feels dangerous. Success feels like abandonment. But it isn't. It is growth. And growth always creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. The question is not whether that distance will appear. The question is whether you will have the courage to keep walking. Because on the other side of that fear lies something the responsible child has rarely experienced. A life that belongs to them. Chapter 7. The Hidden Rage. One of the greatest myths about childhood trauma is that it creates weak people. It often does the opposite. It creates extraordinarily capable people, responsible people, dependable people, strong people. The problem is not that these people are weak. The problem is that they are carrying something they were never allowed to express. Anger, not the explosive anger that destroys relationships, not the violent anger people fear, something far deeper. The quiet rage of a child who spent years sacrificing themselves for everyone else. The rage of a child who never had permission to say, "This is not fair." Most parentified children learn a dangerous lesson very early. The family can tolerate sadness, the family can tolerate obedience, the family can tolerate self-sacrifice, but the family cannot tolerate resistance. The moment the child becomes angry, the system becomes uncomfortable. The moment the child protests, the system pushes back. The moment the child says no, the system labels them selfish, and so the child adapts. The anger does not disappear. It goes underground, like a river flowing beneath the earth, invisible but powerful. Psychologist Alice Miller spent much of her career studying children who were praised for being exceptionally good, exceptionally helpful, exceptionally accommodating. What she discovered was disturbing. Many of these children became adults who had lost contact with their own anger. Not because the anger was gone, because it had become forbidden. The child learned, good children don't get angry. Good children don't complain. Good children don't create problems. Good children understand. Good children sacrifice. And so they did. Again and again. Year after year. Decade after decade. Until eventually something strange happens. The adult becomes exhausted. Not from life, from suppression. Imagine holding a beach ball underwater. At first it seems easy, then the pressure increases. Minute after minute, hour after hour, year after year. Eventually the effort becomes impossible. That is what emotional suppression feels like. The anger never disappears, it simply waits. Waiting is one of anger's greatest talents. Many parentified children become masters of emotional control. They appear calm, patient, understanding, mature. Nothing seems to bother them, but beneath the surface, resentment accumulates. 1,000 small sacrifices, 1,000 ignored needs, 1,000 moments of self-betrayal, each one adding another stone to an invisible mountain. The tragedy is that these people often become victims of their own reputation. Everyone sees them as strong. Therefore, everyone gives them more responsibility. Everyone sees them as capable. Therefore, everyone gives them more burdens. Everyone sees them as dependable. Therefore, everyone depends on them. The stronger they appear, the heavier the load becomes. Until one day, the system reaches capacity, and then something unexpected happens. The responsible child explodes. Sometimes the explosion looks dramatic. A relationship ends overnight. A career is abandoned. A family member is cut off completely. Years of suppressed frustration erupt all at once. People are shocked. They say, "Where did this come from?" The truth is simple. It came from everywhere. It came from years of being ignored, years of carrying, years of sacrificing, years of swallowing emotions that never disappeared. But sometimes the explosion is quieter, far more dangerous. The anger turns inward. The person develops depression, burnout, numbness, emotional exhaustion. They stop caring, stop dreaming, stop hoping. The fire that once fueled them collapses inward. This is one reason why so many parentified children struggle to understand their own emotions. They were never taught how. They were taught how to manage everyone else's emotions, not their own. Think about that. A child spends 20 years becoming an expert in other people's feelings, yet remains a stranger to their own. When anger appears, they immediately suppress it. When resentment appears, they feel guilty. When frustration appears, they apologize. Even now, as adults, many still treat their own emotions as enemies. The irony is that anger is not the problem. Unexpressed anger is the problem. Healthy anger serves an important purpose. It identifies violations. It identifies injustice. It identifies boundaries that have been crossed. Anger is often the mind's way of saying something is wrong. Something must change. This cannot continue. But the responsible child rarely hears that message because they have spent their entire life translating anger into guilt. The moment they become upset, another voice appears. You're overreacting. You're being selfish. You should be more understanding. Think about what everyone else is going through. And so the cycle continues. The child protects everyone except themselves. Then one day, they encounter a terrifying realization. A realization that changes everything. The anger was never the enemy. The anger was the messenger. The anger was trying to protect the child. The child simply never listened. And perhaps that is the deepest wound of all. Not that they were forced to carry burdens, not that they lost their childhood, but that they became so focused on protecting everyone else, they abandoned themselves. The rage remained hidden because the child believed self-preservation was selfish. But self-preservation is not selfish. It is necessary. And the moment the responsible child finally allows themselves to feel the anger they buried for years, something extraordinary happens. The anger begins transforming, not into destruction, into clarity. For the first time, they begin seeing what happened. For the first time, they stop blaming themselves. For the first time, they stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What happened to me?" That question changes everything. Chapter 8. The Child Who Never Existed. Perhaps the most painful consequence of growing up too fast is not anxiety, not guilt, not hypervigilance, not even the loss of childhood itself. It is something far more difficult to articulate, the loss of identity. Because when a child spends years adapting to the needs of others, a strange question eventually emerges. Who would I have become if I had been allowed to be myself? Not the responsible one, not the strong one, not the peacemaker, not the fixer, not the emotional caretaker, just me. Many parentified children never get the opportunity to discover the answer. The family system assigns them a role long before they develop a sense of self. And once a role becomes useful, the system protects it. Think about a stage play. Every actor has a part. The hero, the villain, the fool, the king, the servant. The play only works if everyone remains in character. Families often function the same way. One child becomes the responsible one. Another becomes the rebel. Another becomes the achiever. Another becomes the invisible one. The roles become so deeply embedded that nobody questions them anymore. Not even the people playing them. The tragedy is that roles are not identities. A role is something you perform. An identity is something you are. And when performance continues long enough, the distinction disappears. The child forgets where the role ends and the self begins. Psychologist Carl Jung described something remarkably similar. He called it the persona, the social mask we create to survive and function in the world. The persona is not inherently bad. Every human being has one. The problem occurs when the mask becomes more developed than the person wearing it, when the performance becomes more important than the self. Many parentified children become experts at building personas. The dependable one, the successful one, the mature one, the strong one. The family praises the mask. The world rewards the mask. But the real person beneath it remains largely unexplored. This creates a profound loneliness, a loneliness that is difficult to explain, because the person may be surrounded by people, admired by people, respected by people, needed by people, yet still feel unseen, because the admiration is directed toward the role, not the self. Imagine spending your entire life being loved for what you provide, loved for what you solve, loved for what you sacrifice, but never feeling loved for simply existing. That wound follows many people into adulthood, into friendships, into relationships, into marriage, into careers. They continue performing, continue producing, continue carrying, continue earning. And all the while a quiet voice asks, would anyone love me if I stopped? Would anyone stay if I stopped being useful? Would anyone choose me if I had nothing to offer? These questions terrify them, because deep down, they suspect they do not know the answer. This is where grief enters the story. Not grief for what happened, grief for what never happened, the childhood that never existed, the safety that never existed, the freedom that never existed, the version of themselves that never had the opportunity to emerge. Many people spend years mourning events. Few realize it is possible to mourn possibilities, to mourn futures that never arrived, to mourn versions of yourself that never had a chance to be born. This is one of trauma's cruelest thefts. It steals not only experiences, it steals potential that remained buried beneath responsibility, buried beneath obligation, buried beneath survival. And yet, there is something important to understand. The lost child is not entirely gone. Buried is not the same as destroyed. Hidden is not the same as dead. The real self often survives beneath the adaptations, beneath the coping mechanisms, beneath the masks, waiting patiently for permission to emerge. This is why healing can feel so strange. People expect healing to feel like improvement. Often it feels like discovery. The person begins encountering parts of themselves they have never met before. Preferences, dreams, opinions, desires, curiosities, ambitions. Not the family's ambitions, not the family's expectations, their own. For perhaps the first time in their life. And that experience can be both beautiful and terrifying, because the emergence of the authentic self often requires the death of the role. The responsible child, the emotional employee, the perpetual caretaker, the person everyone depended upon. Those identities begin falling away. And every identity we lose creates grief. Even unhealthy ones, even painful ones, even identities that imprisoned us because they were familiar. And familiarity is difficult to surrender. This is why many people become trapped between two worlds. The old self no longer fits. The new self has not fully emerged. They exist in a kind of psychological wilderness, no longer who they were, not yet who they will become. And in that wilderness, they face a question that may be the most important question of their entire life. If I am not the role, who am I? Not who does my family need me to be, not who society expects me to be, not who trauma shaped me to be. Who am I? That question is frightening, because there is no shortcut to the answer. No therapist can answer it for you. No parent can answer it for you. No book can answer it for you. It can only be discovered through living, through experimentation, through freedom, through finally giving yourself permission to become someone other than what the family required. And when that happens, something extraordinary occurs. The child who never existed begins to appear for the first time. Not as a role, not as a function, not as an employee, but as a human being. And that may be the beginning of real freedom. Chapter 9, Reclaiming the Lost Kingdom. At some point, every parentified child arrives at a crossroads. Not a physical crossroads, a psychological one. For years, perhaps decades, they have carried responsibilities that never belonged to them. They have managed emotions that were never theirs to regulate, solved problems they did not create, paid debts they did not incur, protected people who should have been protecting them, and eventually, they become tired, not weak, tired. There is a difference. Weakness says, I cannot continue. Wisdom says, I should not have been carrying this in the first place. That realization changes everything, because the moment the responsible child understands what happened, they face a decision: continue the role or resign from it. Most people believe freedom is a destination, a place, a circumstance, a future event. It is not. Freedom begins with a decision. The decision to stop volunteering for a job you never accepted. The decision to stop financing other people's irresponsibility. The decision to stop earning love through suffering. The decision to stop proving your worth through sacrifice. And perhaps most importantly, the decision to stop apologizing for existing. For many parentified children, this feels almost impossible because guilt immediately appears. The old programming activates. The old fears awaken. voices from the past begin speaking. You're selfish. You're ungrateful. You're abandoning us. You've changed. The fascinating thing about these accusations is that they often arrive the moment a person begins establishing boundaries, not when they are being exploited, not when they are sacrificing themselves, not when they are carrying everyone else's burdens, only when they stop. Because boundaries expose systems. A healthy relationship respects boundaries. An unhealthy relationship resents them. The responsible child eventually discovers something profound. The people who benefited most from their lack of boundaries are often the people who become most upset when boundaries finally appear. And that realization can be devastating, not because it creates hatred, because it destroys illusions. The illusion that everyone wanted what was best for you. The illusion that sacrifice automatically creates love. The illusion that endless giving eventually earns acceptance. The illusion that if you just try hard enough, everyone will finally become who you needed them to be. But life rarely works that way. People are not transformed by our sacrifices. They are revealed by our boundaries. The parentified child eventually discovers that some people loved access. Some people loved convenience. Some people loved control. But very few loved the fact that the child was slowly disappearing. And once that truth becomes visible, it cannot be unseen. This is where grief reaches its final stage. Not grief for the childhood that was lost, not grief for the years that were sacrificed, but grief for the fantasy family, the fantasy parent, the fantasy future, the fantasy relationship, the fantasy that one day everyone would wake up and become what they never were. Hope kept the system alive. Hope kept the burden in place. Hope kept the child waiting for validation, waiting for fairness, waiting for rescue, waiting for permission. And eventually the responsible child understands something terrifying. Nobody is coming. Nobody is arriving to return the lost years. Nobody is arriving to make the story fair. Nobody is arriving to give them the childhood they deserved. At first, this realization feels devastating. Then something remarkable happens. It becomes liberating, because the moment nobody is coming, everything changes. The waiting ends, the negotiation ends, the performance ends, the audition ends for the first time in their life. They become free to build, not repair, not rescue, not carry, build. This is where the metaphor of the kingdom becomes important. For years, the child lived as a servant inside someone else's empire, someone else's expectations, someone else's emotional reality, someone else's unfinished dreams, someone else's wounds, someone else's chaos. And now, for the first time, they stand alone. No chains, no debts, no contracts, no role, no script, just possibility. The silence feels strange. The freedom feels unfamiliar. The absence of obligation feels almost unnatural. But slowly, something begins to emerge. Curiosity, joy, peace, ambition, identity. Not the identity assigned by the family, the identity discovered through freedom. Carl Jung believed that one of the great tasks of life is becoming who you truly are, not who your parents wanted, not who society demanded, not who trauma created, who you are. And perhaps that is what this entire journey has been about. Not healing, not recovery, not fixing what was broken. Becoming the person hidden beneath the burden, the person hidden beneath the role, the person hidden beneath decades of responsibility, the child who never had the opportunity to exist until now. The greatest tragedy of parentification is not that it steals childhood. The greatest tragedy is that it convinces a person their worth depends on carrying everyone else. The greatest victory is realizing that was never true. You were never valuable because of what you carried. You were valuable before you carried anything. You were never valuable because of what you sacrificed. You were valuable before the sacrifice. You were never valuable because of what you solved. You were valuable before the problems appeared. And the moment you understand that, the entire system collapses. The burden falls, the chains break, the contract ends. The child is finally released, not into weakness, into sovereignty, because you are no longer the caretaker of everyone else's kingdom. You are no longer the emotional employee. You are no longer the responsible child. You are no longer the parent who never should have been a parent. You are now something far more powerful, the rightful ruler of your own life. And from this moment forward, the kingdom you build belongs to you.